Hello. See if anybody joins. Smoke a little bit. But today I wanted to talk about self-control and emotions. Hi. I guess I see some people joining, which is awesome. So I have consistently been told throughout my life, and recently though, to not use my emotions, and that we need to use facts. But actually, self-control is an illusion, and it is based on our emotions. Our brains consist of two different sides, the thinking brain and the feeling brain. And this is all covered in Mark Manson's Everything is Fucked, a book about hope. This has been very enlightening to me, and I'm not even that far into it. But basically, Mark talks about how we have basically been trained to not pay attention to our emotional side. We act as if we can totally control our lives through just our thinking brain. We act like that is the brain that's in control. But as human beings, we're actually driven by emotion. Our feeling brain is what's in the wheel. That is why we, do a lot of the things that we do, not because our logic brain tells us. Thank you. Our logical brain, we know better. Like, you shouldn't have too many carbs. You shouldn't drink alcohol. Don't punch somebody in the face. All these logical things our brain knows, but our feeling brain is what actually drives us to do anything. And that's actually been proven because, and as he explains, in 1935 was when, I'll have to look up his name, but a scientist in 1935 invented the lobotomy procedure, which basically they drilled a hole in your brain, and it was used for people who with extreme mental illness, depression, anxiety, and it cured it. It relieved people of their emotions, and they were purely logical creatures, but they all became couch potatoes. They all didn't give a fuck about anything, so they never were able to make a decision because they didn't care. So when someone tells you to not use your emotions, that's not accurate. That's not how we should be processing things. And the reason I bring that up is because our society, especially within the US, has been trained to suppress emotion, which doesn't really go away. It manifests in really ugly ways otherwise. I was talking with my mother about how, family members she remembers, people like my cousin, I'm not going to name names, but, being scolded not to cry as a child. Don't cry, and you bring that into your adulthood subconsciously, whether you know it or not. You get trained not to show emotion, not to process it, and it still manifests in another way. And I'm going to bring up a really controversial subject, Jeffrey Epstein. He suppressed whatever abuse he had in his childhood, and it manifested in ways I don't want to talk about right now, but basically, I believe that our culture is toxic to men because they have been taught for so long not to show their emotions, not to engage with them, to pretty much just ignore them. And that is not healthy, and it's not good for anybody. And actually, self-control is an illusion because we work best when our thinking brain and our feeling brain are aligned. When we have the same values as, what our logical brain is telling us, and we, work within our emotional brain's court, we can work on being well aligned, and that's when we feel like we have self-control, when we work with both sides of our brain. I have a few notes here that I wanted to say. Let me see. So, this is a quote from his book. "It's an illusion that occurs when both brains are aligned and pursuing the same course of action. The only way you consistently nail that illusion is by consistently communicating and aligning the brains around the same values." So, when this Black Lives Matter movement, yes, we have to look at the facts, but yes, we have to look at our emotions too. You use those emotions to do what you have to do. Another quote from "You Are a Badass at Making Money" by Jen Sincero, which is great. "The overindulgence of emotion leads to a crisis of hope, and so does the repression of emotion." Because basically you're ignoring your emotions in that way. And even if you're doing everything logically that has been told to you to do, if your emotions aren't following, if you're not with it, you're not going to do it. That's how humans are. And we act like we're not, but that's how our brain works. Your thoughts inspire your emotions, that inspire action, that form your reality. And there's so much to cover here, but we produce our own realities by what we say, what we surround ourselves with. Your external world is a mirror of your internal world. So that affects who you're hanging out with, what you surround yourself with. If I can't reason with somebody, I will just have to walk away, because I have to preserve my time and energy and my emotions. And you just have to realize what is not in your realm of control and keep going. But you are in control of your own environment, and you pretty much are in control of your reality. We just don't give ourselves credit for that. But I say your external world is a mirror of your internal world. That really rung with me because, so I'm going to go back into the Jeffrey Epstein thing. Thank you, guys. Jeffrey Epstein, if you didn't watch his Netflix, the docu-series on the horrific things that he did, but the officers and the girls' accounts of his property, he surrounded his entire, so he, was on his own island, cut off everybody else, which that part I can relate to, but he created his own sexual weirdo environment because he completely covered his place in these erotic children art pieces, and he created that environment. And so in his head, he's in the right place. Like, he has created this world, and nobody checked him on it, or, they couldn't at that point. But I feel like that is a manifestation of some nasty repression. There's not grown-ass men and women are not attracted to children if you haven't been, what I think they're really attracted to is their own youth. They're fantasizing their own youth, and that's what they see. That's what they're trying to recreate over and over and over again. They're trying to fix whatever abuse happened to them, and you see that a lot in abuse victims. They can oftentimes grow up and be abusers themselves because they feel, it's also an equalizing thing. Oh my God, Lynx. She's trying to play. It's also an equalizing thing. Whenever you feel wronged, naturally you want to equalize that. You want to tell yourself that you didn't deserve that and they deserved that, or something like that. And then if you can't reason it, you internalize it and you're like, oh, well, I guess I did deserve that. So basically, you can't ignore yeah, it's also a power thing, but it's a power thing that again, it's these people that are, never satisfied by sex, money, power. It's because they're not getting something else, the emotional love and support that they truly need. They've ignored it, they've suppressed it, and they keep trying to look for it in somewhere else, and it's never going to be there, no matter how much they fucking try. Happy people don't do that. Happy people don't abuse other people. Happy people love other people. And that's kind of what I wanted to touch on today. Like, I think that our society has been so beaten down by these men in power to not show emotion, to not talk about trauma, to not talk about abuse, to not talk about our mental health, when in fact we are half emotion and half logic. That is how our brain works. So if you ignore one or the other, of course you're going to be off the fucking wagon. And the way that our, love and empathy is above all the best. Oh my God, hold on one second, Jesus Christ. Thanks. Go. It's like having a child, never satisfied. But I think, personally, I think a lot of people need to expand their brains, and the way to do that is to get new experiences, to read, to travel, to, just experience new things. But also, I'm going to talk about drugs. Hallucinogenic drugs are amazing. And you can definitely overdo it, and you can definitely not be in the right headspace for it. But I will tell you that it is one of the most transformative experiences in your own brain. I have felt connections, connect in my brain that I have never even, remotely felt close to, if that's a way to explain it. I would say Have a Good Trip on Netflix about hallucinogens, but one psychologist basically said he learned more in the 4 hours of doing mushrooms than he did in his previous 20 years of psychology. So that's not a joke, and that's not something to take lightly. And I believe that when you do something like acid, and let me say first that I'm not giving green light for everybody to just go do acid, because some people aren't mentally ready for it. You can be scared out of your mind because of all the propaganda that's been drilled into our heads for years and years, or you're not in a good headspace. Anything that you are, dealing with in your mind is going to be kind of expanded on. So you definitely want to be somewhere comfortable and somewhere you're familiar with. But it definitely has expanded my worldview to not see things as binary. Things are not black and white, ones, zeros, yes or no. We are on a spectrum. Everything is a spectrum, and everything is connected. Our whole world is connected. All the nutrients we eat go into the food, go into the ground, and, back through us. Everything is connected, and the way that our society has been brought up is that we're all on our own. We're all one man for himself, and it's, you can't show emotion because that's weakness. And basically, you've got to put on this fucking front your whole fucking life. And then we're surprised that these men are fucking miserable. No, not really. I'm not. But that's because I've been in a place of observing and learning. And I think that part of the reason that men have often looked at women as being discredited or whatever, because they've been told by their own parents or, father figure that emotions are not good. So when you see emotions in somebody else, you're like, oh, you discredit them. That's somebody who can't pull their shit together, and that's not true. So that's something that we're going to have to work over as a society. But the point I'm trying to drive across is that your emotions are not something to be ignored. They are a tool. Feelings are feedback. Your emotions are what drive you to do anything. So when you're approaching a problem, like not drinking alcohol or not eating well, look at the reason that is driving you, and it's a lot of work. It's not something that just can change over time, but you have to reframe your mind. I mean, I guess it's not something you can change overnight. You can change it over time, but you have to look in your mind what emotion is driving you to do that. And you kind of have to rewire your brain to look at it in a different way that does inspire you to take that course of action. Like, my emotions, like, I am not drinking right now, thankfully, and, I did drink as a way to cope with my feelings, and the fucked upness of the world and my life or whatever, and now I'm trying to retrain my brain into, I don't want it because I like my brain being able to function at its best. I like my body being able to function at its best because it makes me feel good, and because I can, do my best in the world rather than just killing myself slowly, I guess. But, and I'm not trying to be completely, alcohol free, but it's a process, and everything is a process. But, right now, we have a lot of people commenting on the sidelines saying that our leaders... I'll just say, I don't really understand people who agree with Trump, because he's a narcissist and all he wants is to protect his self-image. And he is a prime example of somebody who has completely fucking shut off his emotions. Like, he does not give a fuck anymore. And you can read about his whole family life, and his niece is a psychologist who wrote a book, Too Much or Never Enough, basically about Trump's family and his upbringing and how he became the most dangerous man in the world, because these men that are only told power and money is success, but emotions, you're missing a whole half of life. You're missing so much, and you're just going to keep trying to find it in the wrong place. And you're never going to find it. So you need to learn that sooner rather than later. And if you don't believe me, I mean, look at Trump. Do you really want to be like him? He's gross. And he's pathetic. But anyways, I'm losing where I'm going with this. But in order to really control our paths, we need to recognize our emotions and meet here with our thoughts, our logical thoughts and our emotions. And that is when you'll really have self-control. But please stop thinking that your emotions are bad, because they're not. You share a birthday with Trump. I'm sorry. I share a birthday with 9/11, so I feel ya. both tragedies in our country. But I guess that's all I have for today. I'm trying to get this wrapped more neatly as I go. But my front camera stopped working on my phone, so I had to order a replacement. And then it was also not working, but then I somehow fixed it, so I don't know what the fuck is going on. But I got my camera back, so yay. I am trying to put my business together, and it is fucking difficult as hell. Okay, the best book I've read about our emotions is the book of Argentine writer Bernardo Stimatia's Toxic Emotions. Okay. Yeah, that's a good one. I'll have to put that on my list. I'm trying to build out my book library on the Library of the 1%, because I bought like a ton of books. I don't even know how many books, hundreds of books. But this is the book I recommend right now, because we're in that kind of place in the world, or at least in the US especially. We need hope, and people are I especially feel hopeless at times because there's so much to take on. But you have to find it, and it's there. Emotions are our inner guidance. You don't want to see my house. This is the only clean room I have right now. But I'm going to be hiring some people to edit some of my videos, to caption them, to edit some photos of the jewelry. So I've been taking photos of the estate jewelry that I bought and trying to deal with that shit. It's ridiculous. I mean, you would not even believe how little people value diamonds. Fucking diamonds. Like, are you kidding me? It's ridiculous. So there's a whole opportunity there that I'm going after. I'm sorry you feel alone. You're not alone. We're all struggling, or I'm struggling for sure. But I get by with the help of my friends, and my mom's here actually cooking and helping me clean the house. And, that's come with some challenges just from our strong personalities clashing. But it's also been really nice just to not have to take care of everything all by myself. So I think when you embrace community and you also let your emotions guide you, you're going to find yourself in a much better place than you are right now. But I think that's where I'm going to end it tonight, unless you guys have any other questions. Okay, well, good night, guys. Thank you. And if you feel inspired to ask me any questions or whatnot, feel free to shoot me a DM. I can't say I'll respond to all of them, but I do try and respond to genuine questions if you ever have any. But I'm just trying to figure this out as I go. So thank you all for joining me, and I will try and do this again tomorrow night at 10 p.m. Every weekday. And once I can hire someone to edit it all, I will have it all in a catalog somewhere. So, all right. What would you say to people we have lost sharing and we are becoming hermits? I feel my girlfriend leaving. I feel ya. I have recently lost a couple people in my life who, I thought cared about me, and they didn't. I was a toy or a prop or whatever you want to call it. And you have to find people that align with your values. And that's a new frontier in our digital world, but it's there, and it's actually even more accessible than we ever imagined. I mean, that's why you find these communities around Reddit, and Reddit's a big forum place, but you find the niches of things that people care about. And I don't really use Reddit myself, but it's kind of what we use Instagram for too. We find similar interests in other people, and that's where you start fostering a community, and that's where you start finding people that you want to be around and who make you feel good. And part of that also is just putting yourself out there. I've posted my heartbreak. I can't speak any other languages. I took 3 years of Spanish in high school, and I cheated on 2 of them. So that's the only class I really cheated on, just so you know. I was a super math nerd. But, what was I fucking saying? Nope, can't speak. I am part Portuguese, but I cannot speak it. I can eat the steak, though. That's good. What was I saying? Oh, well. Oh, yeah, find your vibe, find your tribe. You gotta put yourself out there to find people that resonate with you. But I posted the other day, and continue, that I'm still dealing with a broken heart on top of a fucking pandemic, on top of my business plan being all fucking out of sorts. That's another thing that's really hard for me as a female business founder. I've been reading this, Changing Tides. It's about, women, powerful strategies for female founders. And basically, I've talked about this another time, but basically in 2017, only 2% of venture capital funding was given to female-led companies. 2%, which is insane. And a lot of that is how people have looked at women for so long and how they approach the questions. But I'm just going to say it's fucking hard. And so I'm trying to connect with female founding mentors that I can learn from and grow from. But I also try and seek, I have found friends over this quarantine that align with my values. They are ambitious people who are inspired to change the world, no matter how small the world tries to make us feel. I try to be with people who only bring me up, because I don't have enough energy to bring you up all the time and keep myself on a higher level. Do you get what I'm saying? So if you're expecting people to be able to just, bring you up with them, it doesn't work like that. You have to help yourself too. You have to stay on that vibration, and you have to eliminate things that are not going to help you. What do I want? Love or money? I want love. Fuck money. That doesn't do shit. I mean, you have to have both. I think you have to have, that's kind of what this book is. I'm trying to retrain my brain to not be subconsciously afraid or disgusted with money, because a lot of us have been raised in homes where money was taboo or often fought over. My parents fought over money, and so subconsciously as a child you see that as a point of discontent, a point of it causes bad things. You relate money to toxic shit, and as a child seeing that, and so that's something that we have to kind of get rid of. And part of what she teaches is money is how we can take care of ourselves and take care of others. I love money because I love myself. I love money because it gives me the ability to live the life I want to live. It's not about being greedy and having money are different things. I have seen the greediest people who are poor, and I have seen the most generous people who are wealthy. They're not the same thing. So I think once you start realizing that, love is way fucking better. Love is way richer than money. And I feel a little like an uphill battle when I talk about my search for love, I guess, because I am in a fishbowl of men who have been trained not to feel, not to pursue emotions, and that's what I want. So, I mean, I don't want a fucking crybaby, but I want someone who is in touch with their emotions as much as they are with the rest of the world and the logical brain. I feel like that's why a lot of men push women away, is because it's too much emotion, and or why men run away from that. They don't know how to handle it. They were only taught that it's no. So that's kind of where I'm feeling. I feel you on the big-heartedness. I have a lot of empathy for a lot of things, and it's sad when people don't see that, or they think it's a front or some shit, and it's just it's feeling things is a beautiful thing, and I just that's all I have right now. I'm kind of like spent just thinking about it all, but I think that we'll be better off when we get in touch. But all right, guys, I don't know what else. I'm not an English teacher. You can listen to me talk, but I'm kind of all over the place, and I'm trying to be a better teacher. That's part of what this is, but I'm kind of not. Okay. You like Playboy. I don't. I mean, yes, and I don't personally need it, but I see the need for it as long as they respect the women. Yeah, I mean, a lot of our society doesn't know how to handle emotions. And let me just say this in respects to not only emotion, but everything. Like this cancel culture, you don't have to be perfect out of the gate. Our society is expecting everyone to be so perfect out of the gate. Like, and it's so fucked. Like, how is anybody supposed to be able to become, excellent at anything if they can't even get started, if they can't even start trying? Like, how would you feel if every time you tried to attempt something new, it was rejected because it wasn't perfect? That's how our society is right now, and it's fucking awful. And so that's why we have a bunch of people who just don't do anything. They're afraid of doing anything because we get fucking pulled down by this crab mentality. Like, if you're miserable, if I'm miserable, then you can't succeed because you're taking away from my possible success, which isn't actually a thing. Like, people who get jealous of other people are only upset with themselves for not being happy with themselves. I'm sorry. Like, if you're mad about someone else's success or, their body or their life, and you're not, they're not taking anything away from you. Okay. You are in control of your life, your reality. And, it's only a reflection of yourself. Like, you're mad at yourself for not going after what you really want. And so instead of channeling that anger, again, using your emotions to drive you to do the shit, you funnel it towards somebody else, and it does nothing except make everyone feel like shit. So think about that. Do you think adults should be punished for their actions as a minor? I mean, there's a lot of gray area in that, but no, I think they should be held accountable, but I don't think it should be like I said, everything's not black and white. Adults we need to be able to learn. We need to be able to let each other learn, and grow, because if we were all so fucking perfect out of the gate, like, how fucking boring would life be? Like, oh my God, what would we even do? So there has to be room for growth. There has to be room for empathy and realizing that a lot of our reactions to things is that equalizing of our brain has to equalize the things that happen to us. We have to realize, if something bad happens to us, like if somebody hits us, we have to think about, did I deserve it or do they deserve punishment? That's where our brains start trying to figure things out. And so there is a progression. And I think the sad part is that you learn a lot in childhood of how to respond to the world, but it's not impossible to change that. Unless you just don't want to, because our emotions are in the driver's seat. They control what we do. So you have to think about that too. And we are a product of our environment. So wherever people keep themselves in their lives, that's where they're going to continue to go. So everybody has, you can't change anybody else. They have to want to change themselves. So, I think that is all I have. I'm loving all the feedback, though. Yes, every painful experience is definitely something to learn from. But that's the risk of life and love. Another quote from Jen Sincero was, "Trying to protect yourself from your fears protects you from experiencing a fully evolved and juicy life." And that's something that I learned early on because I was heartbroken and I fucking threw myself on a trip to Thailand by myself because I basically had hit my rock bottom, which wasn't really a rock bottom, but it was just, I was so heartbroken, like, who gives a fuck? And actually my ex, he was the one who inspired me to be a travel blogger because that's what he wanted to do. And so I was like, that sounds cool. I want to do that. And then whenever, he broke my heart, I was like, well, fuck him. I'm going to do it anyways. And he talked up Thailand, and it was the best thing ever. And then I saw a flight deal, and I was like, all right, I'm going. And it was fucking terrifying. Of course it was terrifying. I showed up in Thailand after like 24 hours of flying, or 17 hours or something, not knowing a lick of Thai. I didn't even think to study Thai. I don't know what the fuck was going on in my brain. And I'm just like, oh, okay, cool. But I had at least, directions on my phone. And I'm, there was like a layover in Japan. It was just like, it looked like hieroglyphics on the wall to me. And it was terrifying. I'm by myself. I'm exhausted. Like, the whole thing was nerve-wracking. But, yeah, best flex on X. Yeah, that's kind of what I do. I find, I often end up with guys who I admire for some reason, and I just still take what I was planning on doing with them without them. I just continue it anyways. But success is the best revenge, guys. Vindictive people are fucking pathetic. I am 27. One of my exes was very vindictive, and it was so unattractive. So unattractive. I mean, he would just think of ways to fucking destroy people's lives who crossed him, and I'm just like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, where you focus your time is where you are creating your reality too. So, all that time wasted on focusing on other people's lives is not going to help you become any better unless you're focusing on bettering their lives. Bettering their lives will better your life. But, if you are just spewing toxic shit into people's lives, you're going to become as toxic as you're trying to make them, or whatever. You have to be mindful of that. Yeah, nature is real, but it's also connected, and it's wholesome in the fact that everything has a role, and that's the part that humanity is still figuring out. I feel like that's part of the disconnect that we feel. We, as a humanity, and our buildings and our businesses, like our fucking water bottle businesses, like the fact that we sell water is absolutely absurd. That's the disconnect. We're not looking at the bigger picture. What do you think of being right? As Schopenhauer says all the time, does not seem to you that it's not healthy, because of human beings, we have errors. Yes, absolutely. We're not always right. We have errors, and we have to allow each other to have errors, and you have to own up to it though too. You can't just act like you didn't do anything, because then people aren't going to respect you. One, because it takes someone big to admit when they were wrong, or admit when they fucked up. And we all fuck up. We all do shit that's wrong or whatever. That's part of the learning process. And if you're learning, you're living. That's how our brains work. If we weren't learning shit, like, it would be horrible. But so we have to allow ourselves to learn, but part of that is also communicating. Everything is better with better communication, I feel like, most of the time. We can't always know what we did wrong if we don't talk about it, or we can't always know how we made people feel if they don't tell us. Like, one of my fucking worst pet peeves ever is fucking people ghosting. That is another example of men not being able to deal with their emotions. Like, if you don't like me, fucking say it. Like, what's your deal, or whatever. Like, it doesn't make any sense. Just be open with people. Just be honest, because it's so much more effort to be a bullshitter. And not going to lead you anywhere good. You're not going to be happy with the end result. People who lie to other people have a short fucking apple in front of their faces, and they're not seeing past that. They're not seeing the rest of their life panning out. They're just going after this one thing, and guess what? If they even get that thing, they're just going to be on another run of lies and shit until it catches up with them. And it always does. If you don't believe me, watch American Greed. That is one of my favorite shows about learning how people, the best bullshitters in the world, always get caught. They always fucking do. Always fucking do. So I would rather build my life around something that is meaningful and sustainable. And the more I help other people build up their lives, the better I feel about my life and the more successful we all become. So it's a chain. We're all meshed, and the more we allow that to happen through communication, through acknowledging each other's feelings and mistakes and, shortfalls, the better we'll all be. And I am really happy in this one moment that we can look at our society and realize that the things that we've been doing are not working. That I am really happy about, because that's worse than thinking that you can't progress further, that you can't grow, that you can't do something better. Like, that is the death of everything great in the world, because it always comes from people trying to find a better way. That's how innovation happens. That's how inventions happen. Looking for a better way to do something is not a bad thing. And I think that people who don't want to look for a better way to do something, or that's how it's always been done, are either lazy or just can't admit to being wrong. They cannot fucking do it because somebody beat it into them. They can never be wrong. Losing my train of thought again, but yeah, so we have to give ourselves flexibility and grow as individuals and as a society, and start connecting with other people so that we can grow. I know I feel better when people reach out to me saying that they're also struggling, or that they also are trying to achieve something similar. And, it makes me feel like I'm not alone, but it also, we can bounce ideas off of each other. We can share experiences, and that's how we grow as humans. And it is, daunting, the idea of rejection, the idea of someone not thinking that we're smart or that we know what we're talking about or whatever. And we don't always, but that's what we're doing. We're figuring it out. So, just have some empathy with your neighbors, and also look at other people as you would look at yourself. Realize that there's more than just what meets the surface, and realize that we are a product of where, how we've been raised and where we are right now. And a lot of people are trying to change that, and we need each other's help in order to change that. But we are all connected, and you have to see yourself in other people, because we are all part of each other. And that's a really good way to kind of instigate love if you can't find a way otherwise. Not understanding other people's emotions is from not understanding where they're coming from, and that's another avenue for communication. That's what we need to work on too. We don't know what we don't know. So always assume that there's something else you don't know, because it's true. There's always something you don't know. Well, that's good. I'm glad you can change yourself for the better. That's what we need to do. All right. I feel like I'm walking and talking in circles. Did I miss any questions? Okay. Yes. We all need a moment to vent, breathe, observe, and obsess. Assess, not obsess. That is a good point, too. I think our world is really anxious, and people respond like this, and it's so fucking annoying. Like to arguments and stuff, people are building defenses in their brain before the other person's even done talking. Like we need to give ourselves time to process information and to reflect on it. And, oftentimes when I'm in an argument, like with my mom, I'll be like, I need my space. I need to go be by myself for a little bit because I need to process what's going on. I'm sorry, can you repeat your question again? I'm confused. But you read people, not books. You should read books more. Books help you read people, but, someone has read Michael Talbot's book, The Holographic Universe, who believes that everything we see is a hologram projected by our mind. I mean, it kind of is. I haven't read that book personally, but our mind absolutely is in control of our reality. We produce everything through our emotions, and then our emotions inspire our actions, and then our actions produce our reality, because what you do with your day, what you do with your time, who you surround yourself with, what you're going after, you're creating your reality. So that's absolutely true. Whether it's a hologram, I hit myself on a lot of shit, so I wouldn't say it's a hologram, but like I said, I haven't read the book, so I'm just joking. But what I was saying is that we need to take a breath, take a beat sometimes to process things or to change direction. That's another thing that I feel like some people don't do is they make a plan, and then no matter what, they stick to that plan. And as a business student, I was taught that a business landscape is always changing. You have your valleys and crevices, but they're constantly shifting. So you have to just keep adapting. It's never going to be stagnant. So if you expect your plan to stay the same no matter what, you're going to be rudely awakened at the end when it doesn't fucking work out because you didn't adapt. And that's, again, the survival of the fittest. It's not who's the biggest and strongest. It's who adapts to life. There are a lot of people who live in the past, which is sad because you really can't change the past. You can only learn from it. A reset in the mind and soul can be the best step forward. Yes, that's true. And then you have to act on it. You have to do action. And that's a whole nother fucking ballgame. But I like to spend my time thinking about the future, but also enjoying the moment. Enjoying as much as I can in my daily life. Taking care of myself. Treating myself with little things like Berry LaCroix or smoking a dab. Little things that get me by, get me excited or happy or whatever. Very true, but how do you not be inclined to the past? It's very difficult. Yeah, it is really difficult. I have certainly been hurt a lot in my life, and whether it was intentional or not, I still learn from it. Hello. And I'm sorry, I'm trying to keep up with what's going on. The past, it's really easy to kind of wallow in it and to feel sorry or, be angry. And you do need to feel those feelings. You have to let yourself feel those feelings. Like, I have to fucking cry sometimes because you have to let that out. Our body is made up of energy. And when you suppress that, you're also suppressing that energy and those emotions, and they don't go away. they manifest in other ways. So you have to acknowledge that, and that part of that is the learning process. I mean, but it's not always, I think a part for me of learning how to cope with that is learning how people react to the experiences in their lives, and like that equalizing thing. Like, some people hurt other people because they were hurt in a way that taught them to not trust, or that, you know, it happened to them, so they feel this retribution that they need to equalize it and basically put it on somebody else. And that doesn't really do anything except put more hurt into the world. For example, Jeffrey Epstein again, he never admitted to being abused, but that's what I believe. But, you know, people who, he would often apparently be quite pleased when he would see these girls be, you know, in pain or, you know, in agony. And that is a fucking misguided attempt at healing his own pain. And instead of fucking realizing it, that it was not working, he just surrounded himself in it and just kept it going and made a business out of it, trying to mask this pain that he had, this monumental pain that turned into this sick fucking manifestation. So it doesn't go away. It just, and I think that's what we're starting to see. We're starting to see the unveiling of all these men in power and their fucking sick side fetishes or whatever the fuck they're into, because they've been taught for so long to not be in touch with their emotional side, or their you know, their real, they crave affection and attention, and, you know, as children, and then they try and find it in the wrong ways as adults, because they never talked about it, because they never discussed it with somebody who knew how to actually treat it. You know, not just, you can't just talk about it with anyone, because not everyone's going to give you really good advice. Like, you know, I'm sure if he talked about it with Ghislaine, who was also fucking a product of abuse, her father abused the shit out of her too. So that's not a surprise. Like, you know, people are like, oh, what about her? And yeah, she's just as much of a fucking monster. And they both were in the same mindset that's what they needed to do in order to soothe their fucking psychotic pain, that they fucking totally misdirected it into this thing, and they encouraged each other, and that's how it got to be that way. But oh my god, my cat is crying behind me. What's that? With time now we have in quarantine, let's take an introspective exam. By the way, I'm loving these fucking comments and questions. Let's take an introspective exam, find out who we really are and what we want to do and where we want to focus on, looking at our past to live in the present. I think I agree with that, but right now there's a lot of uncertainty in the world, and I feel like that's affecting people. It's affecting me, but the best way to deal with that is to look into yourself and look what really makes you happy, what really drives you, and because our emotions drive us. So I have felt really attached to the ocean for a really long time, and I never really understood why, and I still don't understand why, but it definitely is something that I want to pursue, because it makes me feel like I'm chasing something bigger than myself. And when I say that, I'm talking about on Nat Geo on Disney Plus, there is it's like Parks of Hope or something like that, where they talk about the national parks within the US, but they also talk about basically the US's largest like underwater park, which is off the coast of Maine, and it's not a protected area, but it needs to be, because it's basically Yellowstone but underwater. That, you know, sharks and all sorts of sea life that are essential to our ecosystem is there, and it's you know, at risk of being endangered by not being protected properly, and it might be gone before we even know it's there. And so that is something I feel driven to pursue. But I also feel driven to pursue a lot of other things. Like there's hundreds and hundreds of shipwrecks that are in the ocean, and hundreds and hundreds of stories to be told that have been lost to time, and because previous generations and decades of humanity we didn't have the tools to do that, but we do now. Like we can scan the ocean and see the fucking bottom of the floor and see what it looks like on a map, on a topographical map. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but we can see what it looks like without even going there. And we can do the same from in the forest. That's how we found all the Mayan structures that are in Guatemala that are like 80 something acres or something ridiculous. I mean, we have the technology that we've never had before. So we're going to find, this is the age of exploration. Like we are going to be so enlightened in the next decade. It's going to be fucking insane. And all the baby boomers are going to go fucking crazy because they're going to be like, what? That's not what we were told. That doesn't fit into our preconception. And I think that's part of what I was trying to touch on with the drugs, like acid or whatever, is that once you open your mind like that, you realize that things are not going to fit into your preconception because you don't know everything. And there is so much more to life than what we've been told, that what we've already figured out. I mean, we haven't explored like 90% of the oceans. Like there's so many species of animals that we don't even know. We've thought a lot of them are extinct, but they're, Marianas Trench is like 5,000 feet down, or I'm making shit up, I feel like, but it's fucking far. It's very far down, and there's a lot of animals down there that we probably don't even know about. Like a megalodon could be fucking down there and we don't even know. So everything we know, we don't actually know for sure. So keep your mind open. Because we're gonna be in for a wild ride, guys. Let's see. What else did I miss? I'll be your heroine, but I'm my own heroine. Thank you, though. If you are loyal, then no one threat you? I don't know. Loyalty is... You have to earn loyalty, in my opinion. Like, I don't... But also, if you're talking about relationships, everything is about communication. And if somebody's cheating, it's usually because they don't look at themselves as somebody worth being with. They don't see themselves as worthy of your affection, so they keep trying to look for that affirmation, and that's when they end up going somewhere else or whatever. It's usually not because of you. So you have to also recognize that. But loyalty is not something that people should just demand from each other. Like, there's a reason. Like, you have to prove that you care about someone, or, that you're going to do good for them. And then and you do good, and then on your word, and then they learn to trust you and build from that. And that's where you build the loyalty, because it benefits both parties. It's not just something that you demanded and somebody's like, oh, okay, fine, just, but I think I've got 1 minute left, so let's see what else you got, if anything. No? Alright, I'm just gonna smoke a dab while I'm waiting, since there's nothing else. But thank you guys again for joining me. If you want to see me smoke a dab, not very well. Fucking, this gas smells like shit. I need to get a new one of these. Living the present is the only thing we can change. Yeah, I mean, smoke weed every day, I know. Yeah, the present is all we can change. Us is all we can change, but you have an effect on people more than you know. So remember that too. When you change yourself, you're changing the world. You really are. A little bit at a time. Just baby bites at a time. We'll get there.